Hey everybody, I thought I'd just kind of give you a bit of, I suppose, an update, little race report from yesterday and just general info. So the race itself was just really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. The weather was due to be quite uncertain, even the night before. We were expecting some rain. Woke up in the morning, it looked quite cloudy, and I made a judgment about what I would be wearing because I looked at the temperature and it was going to be about 12 13 degrees, and I've learned from previous experience and certainly from watching people's videos online. I think even a comment a while ago, just basically dressing for the temperature, not for the weather. And so I turned up and I was wearing my running vest, and you got a couple of, I suppose, peculiar looks because there are other people who were, I would say, heavily clothed. And what I mean by that is they've got a t-shirt on. Some of them got kind of like a zip up top on. Some people have got like a kind of running jacket on, and then on top of that they've got their racing vests. And okay, the race itself is split up into a few different distance categories. We've got the 5k, the 15k, 25k and 32k. So I suppose if you were going for 20 miles, it may well be more suitable to have a racing vest and all of those things on. But certainly for the shorter distances, the need for the vest is questionable. However, what I would say is the amount of resources available out on course was pretty limited. If I didn't have my bottle with me, which I had tailwind in, I think it would have been quite tough because it did get warmer as we moved through the race itself. And I say race, it's not billed as a race, it's billed as a run or walk event, and so it's not a race as such. And people, I think, use it predominantly for training. A couple of people were talking about the North Downs Way Ultra. A few others were talking about Centurion events. A couple of competitors who were taking part, and I say competitors kind of loosely, a couple of other people taking part were wearing a South Downs Way finisher top. So these are people that are used to running at larger distances than what I ran yesterday. And anyway, I digress slightly. So water was available at 5, 15 and 25k. Now, we were told at the start of the race, don't worry, you're never 10k away from water. Well, if you need water, 10k is quite a distance to have to travel to get it. So that was quite intriguing. And even some of the food offer, I mean, I didn't look in huge detail, but it just seemed to be kind of pretzels and bananas. So slightly peculiar. Anyway, once I got started, I was at a pace which I agreed with myself what I wanted to do beforehand, which was to run at a slower pace somewhere around my marathon pace, which is kind of the 5:40 range. Now, if you watch my videos from a few weeks ago, you will know that this weekend was supposed to consist of two races. The race yesterday and then a race today, which is Sunday. Now, the race today was supposed to be a 10k, and the idea was I was going to be running it quite quick, pacing with some members of my family who I'd done some running with in the lead up to Brighton Marathon. Now, sorry, just adjusting the camera there. Ooh, that's gone well, hasn't it? Now, I didn't hear any information confirming this race yesterday. What I decided to do was just focus on myself and focus on my thing, because this race today, this 10k, was never something that I had my heart set on. So I wasn't particularly worried either way about taking part in it. If it came about, I would take part in it. If it didn't happen, it wasn't a problem. And as I hadn't heard anything, I just decided when I started running, you know what, you really need to focus on yourself and what you want to get out of this, let's call it a race, what you want to get out of it. So when I started, I was around about the 5:30, and I thought, this feels quite comfortable. I wonder how far I can go on 5:30, which is faster than my marathon pace. But it's just something I just thought, I want to know where my fitness is at. Okay, when I ran my first marathon, the pace was relatively slow, and I'd always been quite comfortable at around about 5:30 when I just did random training runs. So anyway, I started, and it was kind of going between 5:30 and this kind of high 5:20s range, a little bit slower at times, but essentially I was averaging around about 5:27, 5:28 for a good chunk of the run. And of course, the scenery was fantastic. It was really picturesque. It was a beautiful run. I didn't feel too hot at all. If anything, I felt pretty warm at times. And what I mean by too hot was I didn't feel like what I'd chosen to wear was hindering my performance. Had my bottle, had my gels, took them every 7 or 8 kilometers, just because that's kind of the habit that I've got into. I'm not saying that I necessarily needed them, but what I wanted to do was test what I was like in those conditions, because it's probably one of the warmest, furthest runs I've done. So it's always good to know, and you'll see at the end of the video I kind of feel myself like I've got a bit of a sweaty and salty head. Well, that's good to know. I needed to know those things, and I do need to know those things moving forward so that I can anticipate when the weather does get really warm exactly what it's going to be like for me, or give myself some kind of insight. And it was just a great run. And when you set off, you just had to kind of click in on your timing chip against like a big like plastic ball that says start. So you kind of set yourself off on there, and then when you finish your completed distance, again you kind of if you like kind of clock in. And so I did the run, and it was really nice, chatting to some people, real friendly environment. A couple of people pulled up, and I just sort of said, hey, you okay? And it was just great. It felt really good. And I mean, the only support you get out of the course, I suppose, is at those little milestones where there's a handful of people. So that, from that point of view, it was great. I knew it was pretty unpleasant underfoot in terms of how up and down it was. A lot of people seem to be wearing trail shoes, a lot of kind of Salomon Speed Cross shoes out about on course. The trouble is, those shoes have got pretty hefty lugs on them. The ground we're on is solid. This is solid. It's not solid mud, it's like solid dirt. There's no way those shoes are penetrating the surface, which is why when I did my run a few weeks ago, I wore my trail shoes, and I realised what you need is just basically a cushioned road shoe. So I went with my Brooks Glycerin 16s, the same shoe I ran a marathon in, and they served me really, really well. I mean, my knees are feeling it a bit today, similar to the marathon actually, and I think it just comes down to the kind of terrain I was on, because it was hard going, it was very up and down, and the risk of rolling your ankle is pretty high. I mean, I was using my GoPro, but at times I just wasn't, because I knew there were certainly stretches that were pretty nasty, and I needed to focus on what I was doing. I think I only kicked a route once, but had I kicked it kind of, if you like, properly, I would have gone over. So that was great. And then I came into the finish, and I kind of got there, and they weren't really ready for me. They're like, oh, are you carrying on? I was like, no, I'm 25 kilometre, because you could obviously just carry on through. And the guy then found the board and kind of I clocked in, and it took about a minute to do that. And grabbed a banana and a thimble of water. And the guy was like, wow, you're the first finisher and the fastest finisher and the first male. And he kind of threw all this information at me. I thought, wow, that's peculiar. Because there were people in front of me. Of course, they were doing the 20-mile distance. So, I mean, you could argue that I wasn't the first to get 25k, nor was I the fastest to get 25k. Anyway, it's by the by. I mean, I kind of got I didn't really get that excited about it. I just thought, oh, that's interesting. And even as I was kind of I posted a few pictures yesterday, because if you follow me on Instagram, you might have got a little bit of spam there from the amount of photos, because you could win £50 vouchers for a Lululemon shop if you tagged them. And I just thought, hey, it's one opportunity, tag away. I don't know what the criteria is for winning anything, but I just thought, why not throw my hat into the ring as you do. And then I got a picture with the Lululemon people, and then I walked away. And as I was walking away, somebody ran up to me and said, you forgot your medal. So I put a medal on. I continued to walk away, and realised I still had my timing chip on, so I walked back again. That was a bit muddled. It was a bit odd. And even actually, sorry, just jumping backwards and forwards, there was no start line. It was just, we were just stood by the side of the river, and it was like, right, off you go. And we did, and you could go between 8:15 and 9:15, any time between there you could just start and get out on the trail. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I really enjoyed it, but I think you've got to be pretty careful. You could certainly hurt yourself if you weren't, taking it easy. And I mean, equally, you could just walk it, and it's a beautiful walk, and there were plenty of people walking, and they're raising money for local mental health charities and organisations. So it was just a great, heartwarming experience, and I was really excited from my point of view about how I was able to maintain that pace consistently over that distance, and it really was like, oh wow, this is really cool, really cool, because there were times when I thought, oh, maybe after 10k, I think I even said in my videos, I'll do 5k at this pace and I'll slow down. I'll do 10k, I get to 15k and then I'll slow down. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, why not just see where you're at? You can always slow down, basically. That's always in there. It's always an option. Why don't you just go for it and see? And I was able to maintain, and it wasn't difficult. Now, could I have kept going to 32k at that pace? I think I probably would have been dropping back. I wouldn't have been dropping back to like 630s. I probably would have been dropping back to 545s, maybe towards 6. But that would have been me trying to make it more comfortable. And I also know that particular stretch, because I've done it before, it becomes more sandy, kind of sandbanks, and softer dirt. So it would be in that last portion of the race where you may find those shoes I mentioned before more useful. But yeah, kind of that's it. There's a kind of a race report there. If you follow me on Strava, you can see all the stats. I won't put anything up on screen because it's not that fascinating, but it's kind of all there if you take a look at. Yeah, and there it is. But I really enjoyed the event, and I would look forward to doing it again next year. I thought it was really good. But it's kind of one of those, just run it independently. You just turn up with the gear you need and go for it. I don't expect as much support as you'd get from a marathon. But yeah, all in all, a really good race. Sorry this video is quite long, but hopefully that insight is of some use and of some value. And yeah, thanks as always for checking out the videos and for your comments. I really appreciate it. And wherever you were this weekend, if you did a run, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, we'll chat there. Take care.